President Biden is increasingly leaning on his family while navigating calls for him to drop out of the 2024 race. His son, Hunter Biden, was named Biden's de facto gatekeeper by Axios and was seen in a meeting of advisors last week. Hunter, who was just indicted on federal gun charges last month, was with Biden at Camp David the weekend after the debate, returned to the White House with him last Monday. The White House later confirmed Hunter helped his father post-debate, joined him to help prepare for his speech about the Supreme Court immunity decision. Plus, NBC reported that after Hunter Biden popped into, quote, several meetings or calls with the president last week, some senior staff's reaction was along the lines of, quote, what the hell is happening? Meanwhile, First Lady Jill Biden, who's vehemently defended her husband following the debate, is seen as the only person who could convince Biden to drop out of the race. She's set to visit multiple key battleground states today to launch a Biden campaign initiative aimed at connecting with veterans and military families. Her tour today includes Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina. So Joe Biden not going anywhere today. Jill Biden hitting the campaign trail. I think that is telling in and of itself. Jessica, what do you make of this this fact that seems to be increasing in significance that Jill Biden and Hunter Biden, embattled Hunter Biden, convicted of gun charges Hunter Biden, someone with very credible accusations of being involved in influence peddling, of having tried in the past to leverage his father on behalf of foreign financial issues. Not saying that that worked or that Joe Biden went along with any of it, but it seemed pretty clear that Hunter's motivations were mixed. He is the one motivating Biden to make this decision. That is inconceivable to me. You'd think that was made up, that was dreamed up by right-wing people who are obsessed with Hunter Biden. No, it is being reported by mainstream outlets over and over again now. It is Hunter Biden in that place to make decisions.
Well, think about it this way, Robby. If Trump wins, it'll be a White House pass from one convict to another. It'll be really beautiful.
Yeah,
this wouldn't be the first time in U.S. history where a president's family member is allegedly running the White House, right? The Nancy Reagan scandal, when Reagan was on his way out, people said she was running the White House. A lot of first ladies have allegedly run the White House before.
Edith Wilson did actually run the White House. Yeah, you're right. That's true. Woodrow Wilson had a debilitating stroke, and that was our first female president, Edith Wilson.
It's a great American tradition, Robby, but it is concerning. We had Donald Trump be criticized vehemently by Democrats for having his family members be his senior aides and be in the White House assisting with decision making. Now, we have Joe Biden doing seemingly the same thing. It does appear to be the case that regardless of how much decisions they're making, Jill Biden and Hunter Biden have some sort of say over Joe Biden's decision making as president right now. Democrats are hypocrites. If they're criticizing Donald Trump for having Ivanka, her partner Jared Kushner, and other family members as his closest aides, his children. I don't think Melania was making many decisions, if I'm being quite honest, but his children very clearly were making decisions with him in the White House. If you're upset about that, you have to be just as upset about Joe Biden doing the same thing. And that kind of double standard that we see, the very establishment members of the Republican Party and Democratic Party both having this perspective of making exceptions when it's their guy, but criticizing it when it's someone else. In a democratic country, the people making decisions should be people we vote for. And I think people criticize the fact that so many bureaucrats are appointed positions that never have to stand for election. But when it comes to senior aides, I've always liked when the senior aides are former members of Congress, people who have served before in elected positions, or at a lower tier, appointed ones. People with experience in governance. Joe Biden was a school teacher. Jared Kushner was a businessman and a financier. You have people serving these positions because they can be trusted by the president, but do they really have the decision-making power to be senior aides to the president? You had columnist Miranda Devine write for the New York Post that Hunter Biden is a proxy commander-in-chief right now, and that Hunter has, quote, always regarded himself as smarter than his father's aide. I think that's a ridiculous thing for a family member to believe, if that's true, coming from Miranda Devine.
Yeah, I think it's very telling as well that he is so reliant on Jill Biden and Hunter, and so reliant on the family right now. That is an indictment of itself in terms of the alleged cognitive decline and the physical impairments, because let's say he's trying to shed that impression and say, no, I just had a bad debate performance. I'm still perfectly healthy. I'm good to go. I'm independent. I am making decisions on my own. But he's relying on family. That's behavior I expect from someone who is getting elderly, who needs more help getting around, can't quite think for himself in a compelling way anymore. That's what people do. They start relying on family more. So the fact that he's clearly that the family is the ones who he's relying on in terms of the campaigning. I think it's the campaigning more than it is necessarily the government policy. But it certainly seems. I mean, Jill Biden's doing campaign appearances on his behalf in his stead today and upcoming. That tells me something, that he's relying on family when he should be listening, you're right, to political advisors, to members of Congress, in his own party, from a political standpoint, not even talking about policy, from a keeping Donald Trump out of the White House perspective that all Democrats have. They don't want Trump to win the election. But Biden's not listening to them. He's listening to his family members. I mean, when people listen to their family members, when they start to forget, who other people are, people you casually see, wait, who is that again? That's something that happens to elderly people. They become more reliant on family because in many cases they have a longer lasting connections with those people, and they're more likely to recognize and identify them, and they understand them better. I mean, that reliance to me is itself kind of a red flag, no?
I think it's a red flag because his family are going to be yes men for him. You're not going to get an honest, critical perspective from the people who love you the most in the world. They're going to deliver it to you gently. They're going to have more faith in you than other people who might have a more sober analysis, maybe based on the polling, based on the data. But it's clear that his senior aides have been yes men as well. So I would hope that his family, out of love for him, after being close to him now, it seems that, Hunter Biden during the time of the trial was kind of at a distance from his father. Seeing him, on camera, spending more time with his family, I think is very telling. And hopefully, at some point, the people that supposedly it needs to come from, we spoke to the former press secretary to Jill Biden, who said it very likely needs to come from someone like Barack Obama or Jill Biden or his closest family members to really get him to consider stepping aside. I mean, hopefully after spending more time with the president, they're going to realize it's the right thing to do as family who love him, not as political strategists that are smarter than his aides, although the bar is not very high for that right now. So maybe I'll give Hunter Biden some credit on that. He doesn't have much to do now that he potentially will not be able to work as a lawyer in D.C., but he's also got his hand full of lawsuits. He's suing Fox News for New York's revenge porn law. He's got a lot going on. He doesn't have time to run the country either.
Yeah, again, my prediction is that Biden will not step aside. I think he's intending to go through with this. In fact, I more than think it. He has said it over and over again that he intends to continue. He has made that clear as day. We've seen so many times now, elderly people in government, in control of our country, do not step aside willingly. They, in fact, die in office. I don't see him giving up power. It rarely happens where someone is in a position that they have political power, at least in the American tradition. Like, we have to go back to George Washington, who could have served, a million more terms, who could have been king, monarch, dictator of America, deciding only to serve 2 terms and then retire. This is not behavior you usually see from political figures. He still has a chance to be president. Something miraculous could happen between now and November, and I think he's going to ride that chance because he wants to be president again. And if he drops out, remember, he doesn't have a good chance of beating Trump. If he drops out, his chance of beating Trump is 0. He can't possibly be reelected president if he's not running anymore. He wants himself to be president, not just the Democrats to beat Trump. He wants to be president again because everyone in that situation wants to be president again. Donald Trump wants to be president again. Donald Trump has been, convicted of crimes, is facing multiple criminal investigations. When he was running for president, after Access Hollywood, the entire Republican Party turned against him. Prominent members of his own party, more prominent so far than have ceased endorsing Joe Biden. More prominent members of the Republican Party all came out against Trump at various stages, including after Access Hollywood. People in the party turned on him after January 6th. Conservative media turned on him, has tried to anoint DeSantis over and over again. And Trump said, no, absolutely not. I want to be president again. I will be president again. I am pursuing the presidency again. And he's very likely to win the presidency again. So I think that tells you something. Maybe Democrats you can say they're different. Maybe you say Joe Biden is a different figure than Donald Trump. Okay, fine. He's facing very similar political circumstances. He wants to be president again. He's a normal political actor, and they all want more power.
People have compared this, Robby, to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. When everyone wanted her to retire, they said she's getting old. She refused. And people said, how could you say this to RBG? And then what happened? We had a conservative takeover, a pretty extreme one of, the Supreme Court. So it was this sort of short-term thinking of like, no, we love her so much. Let her stay in office. She's the greatest. Or let her stay on the bench, rather. It's not an office. But then what did we have? Long-term power loss for Democrats and the liberal and left ideologies in the United States. There are donors that are very powerful in the Republican Party that are looking back on that and see it as a power loss. So what do you do with someone like Joe Biden, who's clinging to seemingly his ego? There has to be a threat of embarrassment. There has to be donors saying, you know what, if you're not going to drop out, we're going to start running ads of you during the Anita Hill hearing. We're going to start bringing up your unsavory political record and really forcing you out. You have to play hardball with someone like this, and you have to hurt their ego, because that's really what it is for Joe Biden. He's always wanted to be president. He's run so many times. He's had his campaign just crumble over his past, faux pas on the floor of Congress, but also very serious things like how he acted during the Anita Hill hearing, how he advocated for buses and segregation. And honestly, if the threat is that donors are thinking about long-term power, they're going to be willing to make Joe Biden embarrassed and the Democratic Party a little embarrassed in the very short term, so that there is someone else in office in November running, or at least running with the Democratic ticket, who has a better chance to win and go into office and keep the White House in 2024, but also years ahead. Someone like Joe Biden running through the election would be awful for Democrats. And there's nothing that their top donors and top, elected officials in Congress, there's nothing they love more than ensuring long-term power and the longevity of Democrats being in power. So I think that pressure is really what's going to get Joe Biden to step down. I think it's going to happen. I think there's way too many powerful people who want to put pressure behind the campaign to get him to step aside.
We shall see. More rising right after this.